This is Take Two.
Do you believe in not time travel, but parallel universes or something?
Oh, that's a good question. That stuff I don't really think about too much. Like when Rogan starts to talk about science and stuff and like aliens, and even when he talks about DMT and drugs and stuff, I really switch off. It's funny how I think my mind is always just focused in on like people's stories. I like hearing people's stories and things that they've overcome. And I like to hear anything to sort of do with like motivation or inspiration. But there's certain aspects when he talks, I just like completely switch off, you know. I like when funny people are on as well. I think that's good, you know.
Yeah, I think sometimes you need a little bit of a light-hearted conversation
Yeah.
rather than always the same people or the same things and the same story. It's like, yeah, ultra running, marathon sprinting. All right, cool, amazing. Goggins, stay hard. I appreciate you so much. I'll log in when I need you. But sometimes you just want to like laugh and clean the house.
Yeah. Or just listen to music. Or
Yeah.
I find that every day with content, it's like this morning I was feeling real stressed, so I put on jazz music in the car. Then when I did the shoot and came back, I listened to a YouTube video. Then this evening I was listening to rap music. So it's like you just pick content based on how you feel, you know.
Yeah.
If you want something mind numbing or you want something that's more, I don't know, full of information like Peterson or something or Lex Fridman. So it's interesting. That's the beauty of the internet. I think it gives you so much choice as to you can feel however you want to feel. You know, you can feel sad if you want to feel sad,
So
happy if you want to feel happy. So
would you consider music as content? It's the first time I ever heard that.
yeah, I would call it content. It's all storytelling, really. So
Yeah.
I particularly like rap because I love English and I love like lyricism, you know. I also just like good production on songs. I've edited videos for a long time, but I've always thought in the back of my head, oh, it'd be really cool to do some form of DJing or like some production or beat making when I'm older, because I think it's all part of like the same cohort of creativity. It's all based on just like making people feel stuff, you know?
I don't know if you're the same as me, right? But I have this really bad tendency on fixating over like a piece of gear or something, or like the moment that something pops up on my feed, beat making, whatever it may be, I'm just like, oh, what is this device? Can I buy it? Amazon, and I go straight to it. And you know those like lo-fi beats, like streamer.
Yes, yeah.
And I was like, imagine if I get that. And I edit videos, but then there's like my beats to it. I am not musical whatsoever. Like nothing at all. But I can press a button. I know that this sounds good to me. Now, in fairness, this is nothing against people that do lo-fi beats. You're great. I can't beat you. But I think I can do it.
Yeah.
You know, like a small pad or something. Just like, yeah.
So you're not musical, but you are creative because you do like production work.
Exactly. So can't I give myself 12 hours and be good?
Yes. Yeah, good.
Ish.
Yeah, probably, yeah.
That's what I think. I think a lot of people procrastinate on creative ideas a lot and just overcomplicate it.
Yes, I agree, yeah.
Probably like you would know a lot about that, no?
Yeah, well, I procrastinate on stuff a lot until I have to do it, you know?
Yeah.
I just feel like there's so many like mini deadlines during the day that I end up getting a lot done because there's just so many deadlines. Whereas, yeah, when I was younger, I think I could have pushed out projects for as long as I wanted, you know?
Yeah.
That was one of the reasons why I liked, when I was in first year of college, I did 3 videos a week for a year. And I just decided I was going to publish at 9 p.m. on a Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. And that was always like a deadline that I didn't miss. So through having a deadline that I just decided was my deadline that I didn't want to break, I ended up producing a lot in that time. So it would be cool to sort of probably bring a bit more of that back into my life, you know, because people give you deadlines. They tell you, you end up producing work when someone tells you, I'll pay you to do this if you get it done by this date. And you basically pull your energy towards doing something and get it done. Whereas if for stuff that you have for yourself, I think if you don't actively do that, then these things won't come to fruition, you know? Like the dreams that you have, they're not going to happen unless you put them on paper or like make it time bound. It's just, you're just going to lie in bed at night dreaming about the same shit you've been dreaming about. And it's never going to happen unless you do something.
until you forget about it or just like feel super guilty. That's something that I wanted to ask you about actually though. Because as I was doing some research on you and trying to figure out like your timeline, I have this not even metaphor, but like an analogy that my dad told me. So as you know, I'm from Malta and stuff. And basically what he used to say when it came to like opportunities, because I never knew, I always knew I wanted something creative, but I never had like a role or a vision in mind. He used to go, treat every idea or every opportunity as going from a Maltese bus, or like a traditional Maltese bus, to a bus station. And now you've got more options. A bus station to the airport. And it just keeps going and going.
Till you get to space.
Until you get to space. There you go. Circle of conversations too. Would you
Would you like to go to space?
Yeah. We go deep, and I was like, shall I ruin it by saying that? Tom, will you shove your head? Gosh, that'd be so funny. Damn it, I was so close to clipping that for TikTok. Anyways, well, where was I going with this? Oh yeah. When you were younger, did you always have a certain place or position in mind? Or was it just figuring out and acting on whatever was presented to you in that moment, that you're like, yeah, this is me for now, I'm gonna smash it?
Yeah, I've never had a particular place that I've wanted to go, but I have always been, and I still am today, just frustrated with where I am. Like I remember when I was 14 or 15, and there was a guy in my class called Alex Quinn, and he had started like a production company when we were in fourth year. Sorry, I was 16. He started a production company. And I remember just being, there's probably a few people who like truly inspired me. Alex was one of them, and still is to this day. But Alex started this business when we were in transition year. And I remember just thinking, like I had made a few YouTube videos when I was younger, you know, and Alex had sort of done the same. But Alex sort of ran with the idea, and he made a company with his sister, and he essentially sort of dropped out of school of sorts and pursued that. And his company now is amazing, and I love all the work that they do. I think it's so cool. And when I was a teenager, I remember thinking, well, why the fuck aren't I doing something like that? Like, why am I stuck in school being the same nerdy kid that I was when I was 12, but I don't really like school the same way I did when I was 12, you know? And I was always trying to find games that I felt like I could excel at and be like world class at, you know? And I think out of that frustration bore a drive to go do things. And ultimately that I sort of, in sixth year, I'd studied a lot first to fifth year, you know? I think if you asked any of my school friends, they would have said, you know, I probably smiled a lot and I was very studious. But in sixth year, I just didn't have that same desire for work, you know? And when I got my Leaving Cert results, I missed my top 4 courses by 5, but I didn't really care, 5 points, but I didn't really care because that wasn't really the game I wanted to play anymore. Like I didn't want to play the academic game. And I ended up going to DCU for 3 months with a course I didn't like. I dropped out. I started selling alarms door to door with Phone Watch, which was like my first job. And number one, I wanted to earn a little bit of money because at that point I had made like no money before that. And 2, I wanted to go back to college, do a wishy-washy degree. This is how I thought at the time. Do a wishy-washy degree so that I could build up a video business at the side, because I had gotten a couple of video jobs where it was like €50, €100 here, €150 here. And I was like, you know what, fuck having a part-time job. Like I'd prefer to make my own money, you know? And I ended up going back to do commerce in UCD. And that summer, there just did reach a like boiling point where I was just like, I cannot continue to live out this like lie that I don't want to make YouTube videos anymore, because like I haven't made these properly since I was like 14. So I started making YouTube videos again, and out of that frustration came the YouTube channel, which became its own thing that I really enjoyed, and it was my own. And you know, on campus people liked it, and people in my course liked it, and everything that was once a frustration became a positive thing, you know? So, you know, to this day, like I don't really know where I'm going to go, you know, but I have this like same frustration and desire and drive to just welly the shit out of life, But I just don't know where that's going to land me in the next 5 to 10 years.
At this point in time, when you look back, are you proud of what you've reached so far?
Like not really. Yeah, like to a degree, yeah. To a degree, not really. I think part of the reason why I haven't posted anything in like a year and a half is that a lot of the thought leaders in social media only began to speak about things once they had accumulated a lot of real world success. Stephen Bartlett had a £300 million company. Gary Vee had a huge ad agency. Tony Robbins had a big business. Grant Cardone had a big business before he started. Alex Hormozy had a big business before he started. Peter McKinnon had a big creative business before he started. The Future had a big design company before they started. And I used to think, and I'm open to being corrected about this, but it's just how I currently think about it. I used to think that you should just document the process, et cetera, et cetera. And I think that definitely has value to it, but nobody really cares until you've made it. So basically this clip, I mean nothing to nobody until I become a success in a big way.
Okay,
and
how would you define success?
I think doing things that like most people haven't been able to do, and achieving like difficult things. I think for my own life, I'd love to. The Patagonia founder basically released this company there a few weeks ago, where I think the premise of it was instead of selling it, they're gonna, for the lifetime of the rest of the company, they're gonna contribute their profits to sustainability efforts. And if we were sitting here in a hospital and I was 110, which I'd like to be, maybe older, and I was looking back on my life, I definitely like to have said that I built a very big business via capitalism, but deployed the money back into philanthropic endeavors. Because I'm trying to think about this a lot in terms of, we're nowhere near the point money wise where we can make a big contribution to society. But I think the biggest monetary contribution you can make is to build a big business the traditional way, and then funnel the efforts back into, stuff like the environment, or like, and then like another person I'm heavily inspired by is my godfather, who I don't really speak to that much. His name is Tom Arnold. He used to be the chief executive of Concern. And, growing up, he was highly inspiring to me because obviously Concern is a big charity, but he would have developed with his team this product called Plumpy Nut, which helps malnourished children. Like a lot of children in Africa grow up with, they have obviously very little food. And when a child is born, if you measure the diameter of its bicep, you can give a fair indication of what its mortality rate is going to be. If its arm is really, really small, you can basically say when it's going to die. So Plumpy Nut was this sort of pre-packed meal that was peanut butter based, that had a blend of fat, protein, and carbohydrates, along with some critical minerals that they would deploy out to children in certain parts of Africa that would help children get from 0 to 2 years of age. And it was a key factor in helping reduce mortality rates for all those kids, So, I really look up to my uncle, and, I'd love to do stuff like that when I'm older. It's just, there's so much uncertainty when you're younger that like you're not really sure how you're going to get there. And all I can say is I just really feel like in the future I will get there at some point, And to date, I have a few. My friend said it to me the other week. It's called receipts. It's like Gary Vee has receipts for his success. He built his father's business from like 2 to 60 million, and now VaynerMedia is a big business. And the struggle as a young person is like basically all you have is your energy, because you have no track record of anything. And to date, I don't really have a track record other than I had my YouTube channel. I built my own little small video business in college. Then did the Go House for a couple of years, and now I'm building Fearless back up, where we're getting bigger year on year, but we're not like a substantial business yet, but I really feel like we can do it, and I felt like that since I was a kid, so yeah.
There you go. I agree with you on that, actually. I think I've been going back and forth a little bit on questioning what am I, not even what am I here for, but like, who am I? What can I offer? Well, like, what is my service? And I'm in the same boat as you when it comes to like, I am heavily inspired by all this like motivational stuff, philanthropy, philosophy. But I'm not gonna start talking now because I don't have that credibility either, which I completely agree with on you. And then I started going further down like this rabbit hole of then going and asking myself, what is in my way? Ryan Holiday, for example, author, whatever. These people start off by writing and publishing that book, for example, then it becomes a success, and then you keep going. And I think that that is the most common denominator with everything or everyone, where there is that belief, and then they figure out what is the first step in the process. Hopefully, you kind of have to, it's not even like a religious thing, it's just this phrase that's popping up to my mind right now. It's like, send it with God, send it with the universe, just send it, and then keep pushing, keep going. And then if this is meant for you, if this is the path for you, you will reap the benefits, right? So if we were to go back, then it's like, who is standing in my way? It's basically myself. Like, you have to figure out how to get out of your own way. How do you get out of your own way? Action. And probably just narrowing down on what you can do now and what you can control now. Because there's so many things that are out of our control, right? And probably whoever's listening to this, that's, I'm assuming you're 25, I'm 25. We have so much time ahead of us. But if we sit around and keep waiting for that opportunity, that book deal is not going to come in front of you, right? If you're not writing. That business deal is not going to be in front of you if you're not working on your business. And that's like the cool thing about it. That's the exciting thing about it. And that's like what's driving me now, is that, okay, I don't have anything inspiring to say. Why? Because I haven't gone through those hurdles yet. But I better fucking work my ass off on, so that those hurdles come to me quicker so that I can leap over them. And it's something else in the cookie jar. That's basically it. I think, I know that you're not asking me this, but you should be proud of yourself, and like, you have done like great shit. But it is cool to know as well that you're not happy yet.
Yeah.
I think that's what makes the difference between.
A lot of my friends say that to me. I was out last night with one of my older friends.
Yeah.
And he was saying that to me as well. And I was saying to him, like, I love you, bro, and everything, but like, I don't particularly care. Like, I don't care if someone is proud of me.
Yeah.
Like, I believe my role on earth is to help lots of people. And my current way of thinking is like, I had an interesting conversation with him. He was saying, are you happy doing what you're doing? And I was like, it's irrelevant if I'm happy doing what I'm doing, because ultimately it's about the outcome of what I give to other people. So like, if I wake up and I feel shit and I don't want to do work, why does that fucking matter? There's people on the other end of the email who need the videos made. They need those videos for their business to run. And that's the value that I'm giving to them, you know? And, you know, I just feel like overall I'd prefer to be slightly unhappy but have led an impactful life than to be a happy-go-lucky guy who was so selfish that he didn't, you know, contribute to society the way he could. Because also I have the awareness that this is completely by chance and completely out of my control, but like, I grew up in a first world country. We weren't a poor house. Mum saved up all of her money to send me to private school. I studied really hard in school. I wasn't malnourished. I had a supportive family. So I had like all the environmental things that any successful person should have, you know? And given all those advantages, you best believe I'm going to try and, you know, use it to the best I can to contribute back to the world, you know? So yeah, but it was an interesting one. He was saying like, are you happy doing what you're doing? And like, I don't understand why people always have to think like they have to feel as if they're happy. Like, what do you mean? Like, I know what people mean when they say that, but you know, it's a fallacy to chase happiness. I think you should chase things that you strive to do, whether or not you feel like I felt amazing coming down the motorway blasting Drake. But like, does that mean that if I don't feel happy now, I don't do the podcast? You know?
Yeah.
You know, I don't fully know the answers, but I value the work more than how I feel about the work.
Yeah, it's a very stoic way of going about it.
Yeah, people say that's negative to me.
No. Tell them they're wrong.
Well, I don't think they're wrong, but like,
I don't think they're wrong, but no, there is a certain look. I don't think that happiness, I'm not saying it's not achievable, but no one can ever really define it. There's of course moments where you are happier, you know, things are more positive. But I don't think we were put on this planet or on this earth to have things easy nonstop. Even considering context where you are better off than someone else and the cycle continues. We're always going to have these challenging moments and stuff. And it's about like waking up and going, all right, I am here. I get to work, for example. And I think probably the most appropriate answer in that question in that situation is, are you grateful for what you have right now, for example? Like, do you feel grateful? I don't know. I'm not one to do gratitude lists, for example. And I don't like meditate on it or anything like that. But I do think that probably gratitude is more important than happiness. In this, anyways. We're getting really deep and philosophical like this. Were you always like that, though? Was there always this hunger in you? And did you always have this unsettledness? Or was there a turning point where you're like, listen, I actually do want to do this? You kind of mentioned I stopped lying to myself and admitted that I wanted to create videos. I feel like that was the same situation with me, where I was like, I was always going back and forth going, is that egoistic? Like, I want to make videos, like notions, you know, like why do I want that? But then when you're like, oh no, I want to talk to people and this requires being on camera and this is what I like to do, so there I'm doing it. What was that turning point for you?
I don't think I've had a turning point. I think I've definitely always had that drive. It's just like manifested in different ways, you know. So you know, like the current thing that frustrates me is in the current business that we're in, I feel like a lot of my time could probably be used better, and I can sort of see a cap in how much money we can make based on the business model that I've set up. So something that I want to look at over the next few months is what's a new form of the business model and what's a new product that we could offer that it delivers more value, is more scalable, and we're not bottlenecked by the current thing that we're in. But I'm sure that once I move to this new thing, it will hit a ceiling as well, and I'll go, how can I remove that ceiling to do more? So I think I've always had that. It's sort of just, I remember listening to people saying, won't you like get to a point and you'll be happy with something? But I find the happiness is in going after the next thing. It's not in like, you know, when I actually get to the end of, if I get to the end of the week and I actually have a few hours there where there is nothing planned properly, I feel this weird sense of like angst and like, what should I be doing? And everybody labels that as, oh, you can't stay in the moment, like, I don't think that's true. I think you can take moments out of your day to, you know, relax, you know, like if I have a few spare minutes between stuff that I'm doing, I'll go outside and I'll play a song, or I'll kick a football around, or I'll go on a swing. I don't think I need like 7-day retreats to feel like I'm in the moment, you know? So, yeah, I think I've always had that unsettledness, and I feel like I always will.
Mm-hmm. Are you still doing MMA?
Not at the moment. Yeah. So sort of for context, I did a amateur MMA bout 6 weeks ago, which I lost.
So let's go back a little bit more. So
Your
that's
favorite 0-1 fighter.
Aren't all the influencers right now just zero? Wait a second, Deji and Floyd Mayweather.
Oh my God, did you see that?
What the fuck is happening with that?
Whoa.
Did you check Deji's comment section? Actually, people are like gassing him up, going like, "Go on, you got this. That 0's gonna turn into a 1 for Floyd." I'm like, mate, you just knocked out Fousey.
Yeah.
That's it. What?
I
What?
don't know why. It must be
Money.
the money.
Money.
Yeah.
It has to be.
But
Like,
how much money could they make? Like,
I
don't know.
believe. I don't know. And at first, I was going to be like, Floyd made 20 million in his last exhibition fight against some whatever.
Yeah, some
But-
guy in Asia or something.
But wouldn't Floyd be making that money and not Deji? Like, of course he's going to have a bag, but I don't know, man. I wouldn't. No.
I don't really know. Yeah, and also it just looks so bad for Floyd. I think it actually makes Logan Paul look even worse.
Yeah.
Because that actually was cool, and then it's not cool anymore now that he's fighting Deji.
like going with Deji. I love Logan in what's it called?
WrestleMania?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's meant to be there.
He's really good at that.
He's meant to be
Yeah,
there
yeah.
completely. Like that's probably the most perfect scenario where it went from YouTube boxing to Mayweather to WrestleMania. It's like, that's a perfect one. I respect Jake Paul too.
Yeah, I like him now. Yeah, I used to not like him when he vlogged, but I just like
He
how
had a different audience though. I think it
Yeah.
wasn't like targeted towards us. Although Team 10 was obviously like creators his age, but I feel like it was more like a kids, like 12-year-old
TV show kind of thing.
TV show, yeah. I didn't like him, but I didn't have much of an opinion on him. But I think he plays social media so well. He is like chief troll without being a troll either. He's just so confident. Like you really get to like appreciate him and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, he loves playing the villain character as well.
It works though.
Yeah.
It actually works, and that's probably like even with the way you're talking about yourself, it's like that self-awareness of just like, you know what, I think those are probably the winners when it comes to social media. It's like, I know that I am going to make more money if I am the villain and if I am a douchebag, you know. Now, in fairness, I was actually thinking about this the other day. It's like, would you want to be that person that is an asshole on camera, but then everyone goes, oh, but like behind the camera, he's really sound or she's really sound? I feel like I wouldn't want to be that. I think I'd want to be like delightful-ish non-stop, you know? Like I wouldn't want to be like an asshole all the time. I wouldn't want death threats.
I think it's more interesting though when you are a bit of an asshole, because there's an MMA or the UFC comparison. Kobe Covington, who's like a welterweight fighter, he used to have like a very happy-go-lucky kind of character in the UFC or persona, and he just found that he wasn't getting any big fights because he wasn't able to generate enough interest with his opponents to get good pay-per-view buys. So then he transitioned to this more bombastic sort of I don't really care kind of character. He wears like MAGA hats and he supports Donald Trump, and all of a sudden he became way more polarizing and people wanted to tune into his fights more. And the reality is he's just a very nice, chilled out guy, but he lives like a separate life in the media.
Yeah.
And it works because it makes him more money, which is something that he definitely needs to do, because all MMA fighters' careers are they're very short existences. And like at any point you could snap a leg or like get your head busted in and you can't fight anymore. So it's very important to take as much money as you can in the short career that you have. So, yeah, I think nobody really cares about nice people except Jay Shetty. I think people like him. He seems very positive guy.
He seems very positive.
Or Joe Wicks as well.
Okay, Joe Wicks, I don't know, but Jay Shetty seems like a really positive guy. But a lot of people, like sometimes if you were to look at his comment section, I think there's something about like copyright with com and like other sort of a.
I feel like there's a bit of beef there.
Yeah, there's a little bit of beef. I'll shut up because I'm not Jay Shetty and I'm not a monkey either. I don't have that like 2-hour meditation like added to my routine. I can't deal with that.
Yeah.
So when it came, so you did the Alta program, right?
Yes.
I forgot what it was called before. What was it?
Wimp to Warrior.
Wimp to Warrior. I prefer Wimp to Warrior.
Yeah, I think a lot of people did, but
Yeah,
it's
but
the new
there
name.
you go. It's
Yeah.
okay. We'll shut up. I'll shut up again. I'll keep censoring myself on this podcast. So you did Alta, and that's basically 20 weeks,
Yeah,
and you've got 3 sessions a week.
5 a week.
5. Oh my god. Walk me through that.
Yeah, so the premise to it was in around March time. It was like a Saturday night, and I was just listening to a podcast with John Kavanagh, who's McGregor's former striking coach, and he runs SBG Ireland now. And at the end of this, it was only like a 30-minute podcast. Your man was like, "All right, mate, what are you doing here?" And he was like, "Oh, I'm promoting this new thing called Alta. It's like a beginner's MMA course." And I had only gotten into the UFC the year before, because when we were in America, we used to watch a lot of it, like,
Yeah.
because it was on at a reasonable time, whereas in Ireland, it's on at like 3 a.m.
Yeah. Have you gone to a Bellator event yet?
I went to Diaz Chimaev 2 weeks ago. I haven't been to Bellator. Oh, it was
okay.
amazing. I was in the T-Mobile Arena in Vegas. It was so
Oh
good.
my god, it's
I
so
loved
good.
it.
Like,
Have you been
it's-
before?
I've gone to the Bellator event, not the September one, so it was earlier this year, February.
Ah, who did you see?
Main card was there was Kavanagh and McCourt, and then the one after that was, oh my god, I forgot. TJ, could you pull it up, please? It would be end of February, card Bellator MMA.
What was the atmosphere like?
Some lad and his girlfriend is on OnlyFans. Paige, of course, I remember the girl. Paige something. He got knocked out in 1 round, basically.
Oh no.
Mexican, I forgot. Anyways, TJ will pull it up. I don't know if I should say this. Oh, I'm saying it. Bought tickets, back row. And my friend, who's like a lot more confident, had tickets in like closer, like they were pricier. And they go, oh, no. Like, you're going to sit next to us. You know, the moment that people fill up these seats, you go to the back. I was like, oh, I'm quite a goody two-shoes, in fairness. I got convinced, and we just sit down, empty seats, empty row. And you know how like an MMA event goes. 1 card, like 1 round, whatever it may be. You go, you drink, and then you go back. So this kept happening, and we keep forgetting our seats and keep finding newer empty seats, to the point we are next to McGregor. McGregor is a tank at this point, you know, post like leg injury and all that. He's a unit. He's a unit, like walking around like that, you know, taking selfies with everyone. You see him there with his massive ass smile, like just grey sweatpants and everything. And you're obviously a little bit tipsy at this point. Your voice is leaving because you're shouting all the time. You're like, McGregor, card, yeah, you won. No clue who you are. Drink. Every single time. And we got to a point where, you know, the 3 arena, so there's the cage, the VIP area, and then it's the first row that's like stacked up. That's where we were sitting.
Wow.
No one ever showed up. The popcorn that I left in my original seat, stale. Stay there. What did I watch? Did you find it?
Was it Kavanagh versus McCourt?
Yeah, so it was February, and then there was the main guys. Who are they?
Musasi versus Vanderford.
Musasi versus Vanderford.
I don't know who those guys are.
Musasi killed him. Killed him.
Annihilated him, did he?
Annihilated.
Was it like a TKO?
Like literally in first round, like it didn't go another one.
Wow.
Like jiu-jitsu down to the floor, poop, poop, out.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's amazing how fast it can go.
It's so, like, you completely understand why the money in MMA is pure entertainment, and you have to stretch it out for so long because everything can end so quickly.
Yeah, the full card we went to with the prelims and everything was like 6 hours long between all
Was this
the
a
fights.
UFC event?
Yes,
Okay.
UFC. And it was so good. It was the best experience ever. It was just like, it was just good to see. They have entertainment constantly. Like, they're very, very streamlined in terms of cameras coming in, cameras coming out, promo videos on the screen, people going out to get food. The whole stadium as well, I didn't realize is very, it's very like elevated rather than going back. Does that make sense? Because on the TV it looks like quite deep, whereas actually it is just quite steep, you know.
Yeah.
And like we were at the very back at the side, but we still had a great view, even though we only paid like $260 or something for tickets.
Yeah.
But it was just a great view of the cage, and particularly with the prelims, because there's not as many people there, like when they throw a leg kick, like you can hear the smack all the way up at the top. So
Uh-huh.
it was crazy, like
Yeah,
to
yeah,
see them in person.
Sinead Kavanagh from SBG had McCourt, who's from Belfast. She had her shoulder like wrapped, like they were grappling, and everyone was just squeamish, like her shoulder's gonna pop out any second now. Now it didn't. That literal fight went the distance, and everyone was shouting nonstop because Sinead tore her ACL. Don't know if it was round 2 or round 1, but she was limping. And the strategy, like everyone was shouting at whoever was on McCourt's side, was going, have her stand up. But why? Like, she's limping.
Yeah.
But they kept grappling. So, of course, Sinead was well able to win the fight on decision just because they were like on the ground non-stop and fucking
And did the other girl know that her ACL was gone? Hard to
Only
know.
hard to know, but she was like Conor McGregor carried Sinead out. Like she just came out of surgery recently. She didn't fight in Bellator this time round.
Wow.
She wasn't standing. She was like bouncing up and down. You know,
Wow.
fighter.
Yeah.
You definitely know that from doing 20 weeks. What was that like?
Yeah, it was good. It's a very attritional sport now. Like there's lots, I picked up lots of injuries, and before that I used to do CrossFit. I've gone back to do that now. Not very well, very recreationally, but with CrossFit, like you would never get hurt. You know, the worst thing that would happen is like you might hurt your shoulder a little bit. Whereas with MMA, there was so many things that I hurt. Like 4 weeks in, I just did I was really bad at throwing leg kicks. I was like over rotating with my foot. So I just over rotated my leg into some lad's knee, Johnny White's knee. And I just really hurt my ankle. I like almost fractured it. It was like almost a hairline fracture. So that had me gone for probably 3 or 4 weeks. And just before the fight, 3 weeks beforehand, we were doing it's a thing called Shark Tank in the octagon. So you do 9 consecutive minutes in the octagon, and every minute you get a new opponent. So it's designed to tire you out. And one of my friends just did a takedown on me, and it just felt a bit weird when I got up, but I felt all right. And when I got home, when I was driving home, or when I put my foot into the clutch, I could feel like a spasm in the right side of my back. I thought it was my back. I went to the physio. It was actually like a sprained rib, which basically just felt like I had, it felt like I had sort of like pulled a muscle in my back. And at this point, I had like told all my friends I was doing this fight, and they had all paid me for tickets, etc. And I was like, you know what? I was wondering, will I just not do it? Because I didn't want to really badly hurt my back for something that I'm not going to make a career in, you know?
Yeah, and
But
you have a choice not to fight as well. That's
Yeah,
what
yeah,
Danny
and
McCormack was saying. Yeah.
yeah, people do that as well. So, and I think basically I was just like, I was like, you know what, fuck it. I've put so much time into this. I just had it in my head. The worst case scenario is I'll just take a shot of something like, I don't know, cortisone or something, just to do the fight, you know?
Mm.
And luckily the recovery worked, and like probably 3 or 4 days beforehand, I was able to train properly again, and I was able to do the fight. So, like it was a really good experience. Basically, I listened to the podcast on the Saturday, rang up them on Monday, and I thought I don't know why I thought this, but I thought the program was something that happened every month. So your one said, "Oh, this is actually starting tomorrow," and I was like, "You know what? Cool. I'm just going to join."
Yeah.
So I just joined up, and then the first day, Owen Roddy was there teaching in Charlestown, and number one, I was like, "Oh, this is pretty cool," because like I watched The Notorious so much, and I remember when I saw him for the first time, it reminded me of this scene where McGregor's training for, I think it's like Alvarez, and they're wrestling up against one of these mats, and all you hear is this click, and Roddy goes, "What was that?" And McGregor goes, "I heard a click," and Roddy goes, "Where?" "In my right knee." And I just had that scene like overplaying in my head again and again. I was like, oh my God, this is Owen Roddy. He's like legendary. And once I did the first day, I was like, oh, this is so good. Like this is like the challenge that I wanted, you know? And the thing I liked about it as well was that when I said it to my friends, most of them said I would never, ever do that, you know? And that to me made the whole thing a lot more valuable, because
What time were the sessions at, by the way?
it was 6 to 7 every morning.
Yeah.
So Monday to Friday we did a session 6 to 7, and I would do like the more I got into it, I did like extra work. So I would do like boxing on a Saturday and or I joined 10th Planet for like in Eastwall. It wasn't Eastwall, Clontarf for like 6 or 7 weeks to work on my jiu-jitsu, and it was like very consuming, you know. And I basically did the program for 5 months, got better. Was definitely very like nervous going up to the fight. I was fighting a guy called Dylan who was in my class, and I knew he was like a good fighter. And like the day itself, you're just very proud that you ended up getting there, like to just get there, because like a lot of people get injured and some people don't want to fight. And you know, this phrase that everybody said to me after the fight, which I didn't know beforehand, saying like you walked the walk. By the time I got out there, and you do this like walkout, and most people have like quite a serious walkout, but for me, when I was warming up in the back room beforehand, I was like middle of the day. What happens is like you're a blue team and red team, so your opponent's on the other side of, you don't see your opponent for the day, and in your room you're warming up with like the pad guy. So like 4 fights beforehand, we had it on a live stream in our room, so we could see what was happening in the octagon. So you're seeing like somebody win, somebody lose, somebody win, somebody lose. You're getting your wraps done. You start to feel a bit nervous. 4 fights beforehand, you start one warm up. 3 fights, you do another warm up. 2 fights, you do another warm up. The guy comes in, he says, "Look, you're going to be on in 10 minutes. I need you to get ready." You know, the pad guy's talking to you, et cetera, et cetera. And at this point, obviously, there's nothing you can learn extra at this point. You know, you've done all the training beforehand. But my mind went back to, you know, why did I do this in the first place? You know, go out there and make everyone proud. There's definitely a part of your mind which goes, I hope I don't get knocked out here in front of my friends, you know? And, but to be honest, the closer the fight got, the more like excited I got, you know, in a good way. And by the time I made the walkout, I like performing and stuff. So I did like, I went out and I was like shouting to my friends and stuff. And I actually so I was going around the cage and I looked around to the other side of the room from my friend's side, and it was a bunch of like Dylan's friends. And I looked at them and they were all like putting the finger up to me, and they were like, they looked like really aggressive. And then I was like, oh shit. Yeah. This is scary. You know, like I could see my friends, they're excited. And then there was this other group of people who I was like, oh my God, they're obviously up for their friends. Yeah. They want their friend to win. And I remember
they want to get in your head too.
Yeah, they do actually. Yeah. And you know, one of the biggest things for me is like, I'm just not a very argumentative person, you know. I'm more of an agreeable person. So part of the reason of doing the fighting was to hone that part of myself a bit. And if there ever was a scenario where there was a physical confrontation or even just general assertiveness, it helped me to, you know, there's like many little forms of bullying that can happen in your life over the course of your life. And for me, it definitely helped me have like a framework for which to deal with that, you know. But anyway, your man like starts the fight and Dylan comes in like real fast, and all I remember is like I remembered the whole fight, but all I remember is like we sort of went into each other. I sort of pushed away, and then he hit me with like a heavy right hand. And I remember when it hit my head, number one, it felt like a hammer to the head. But 2, I remember thinking, I've never actually sparred like full on, because you never really spar full on, you know. And he was just doing everything really well. Like he was being very direct with his punches. I think one of the things that I had going for myself is that for my weight, I'm quite strong. So when he got me down to the ground initially, it was really poor technique, but I was able to stand up and get him off me, you know. But I only lasted 1 minute and 36 seconds. He basically had me in full mount and he was like throwing fists down, and I wasn't moving enough for the referee to not call it. And he eventually called it, but like fucking hell, 30 seconds in, it felt like it was 5 minutes long. I was like, is this ever going to end? Because it's 3 3-minute rounds, which doesn't sound like a lot, but when you're in there and someone's throwing at you, it feels really long, you know? But yeah, afterwards, like I hugged him or whatever, you know, I stuck Dylan's hand up. We got the picture, and I walked out the cage, out the back of the tent, and I just like had a big pain in my head. I think I was crying. I think the emotion of the whole thing sort of poured out, and I had this like up until the fight, I always had this thing in the back of my head of like, even if we were doing a podcast now, but I knew my fight was in a month, 5% of my brain remembered that I had a fight coming up.
Yes.
And I had this huge sense of relief of like, I don't have this thing in the back of my head, because everything up to that point, even though it's an amateur fight, everything up to that point was targeted around I need to get sessions in to make sure I'm well prepared. I need to go physio to make sure I'm physically prepared. I need to sleep, because if I don't get to sleep on time, I'm going to miss a session. Or if I don't get to sleep on time and I do end up going to the session, I can do the session, but then I have to work afterwards, like normal life. So if I don't prepare myself properly, so you end up putting so much like time, attention, and money into essentially being an athlete, even though like you're not being paid or anything.
Yeah.
And it was just such like a big commitment, you know. But I loved it. It was a good challenge. I wouldn't be against doing it again. I'm not doing it at the moment. I might go in to do like, you know, just a white collar boxing night or something instead, just to have something to focus on. But I think that was the biggest thing, is you have like a date to aim for, that you prepare for better, for worse. You know that on that date the thing is going to be finished, and you know it was good to have something to fight for. And I'm not getting paid to say this, but the whole crew was amazing. Like, it was such a good training. All the trainers were so good, and I did a lot of PTs with a guy called Jer Harris, who I'm still friends with now, and he has a fight coming up in October. I'm going to film him tomorrow. And you know, you do develop a bit of a brotherhood with the people in there as well, because you're going through war together, you know, essentially, and you develop a great bond with them, you know. So I'd really recommend it to people. I had a great time, you know, I'm a very agreeable person, you know. I wasn't the kid who started fights in school.
Yeah, I think a lot of people say that when it comes to taking up a martial art in general, especially if you are an anxious or an overthinking type of person, the best way to pour yourself first. The best way to kind of approach your anxiety head on would be martial arts in such a way. Oh, thank you.
No problem.
Martial arts, and you're just fighting. You can't think of anything else except defending yourself and putting yourself in such a confrontational situation. It's so scary. I've done it before, and
You've done a fight before?
I my first sport was karate. Like,
Really?
yeah.
Wow, I
That was
didn't know that.
martial arts. I was good. So basically, when it comes to karate, you've got kata and you've got kumite. So kata would be like a dance by yourself. That's what I was good at. But then when you turn like 11 or 12, you're slowly introduced to kumite, which is boxing, just jumping up and down. But the rules are really intense in the sense of you have to show that you could have hurt the person, but you can't. So if, let's say, the glove lands on your opponent's cheek and their cheek is red, you get deducted points. And I used to get super anxious about that. So if I were to show you footage from my childhood, I might put it up here, but like, I don't know, because it might be anxiety inducing or triggering to people. But I was having panic attacks in front, like a little kid, going, like, you could see my shoulders going up and down in front of an audience. And that's what like steered me away from the sport in general. Other things too, but that was mostly it. It was like the team around me didn't have the tools at the time. Probably anxiety was not even a thing in that moment in time, where they wouldn't even talk about it. But I recently took up Muay Thai this year.
Cool.
It was super fun. I like, if you enjoy the MMA but you don't want to do MMA, I think Muay Thai is super, because you have a little bit of boxing, but you're also kicking around and stuff, and you've got a clinch, so a bit of jiu-jitsu as well.
Oh, that's cool.
I recently stopped it because I want to go on running now. Like
You want to run?
I wanna
hate
run.
running.
I hate running, but that's why I want to do it.
Nice. Well, that's a good reason to do it. Yeah.
You know, it's kind of like, I have avoided running for so long because I've always said that I'm asthmatic. My cardiovascular endurance is below the ground. So I'm like, no, I'm gonna run. You know, like, so I want to just embrace like loving something that I thought I hated, if that makes sense.
100%, yes.
So that I'm like, no more Muay Thai. It got a bit too serious for me then. It was like, join the fighters class. I'm like, all right, cool, I'll join the fighters class. And then these people are actual fighters. I'm like, no. I'm here to punch bags. I'm not here to
Punch
actually.
people. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, it wasn't for me. But that's okay.
Yeah.
That's MMA for you. That's martial arts. I think I think that if you have a child, you should throw them into martial arts as their first sport.
Yeah. Or gymnastics. I think either would be
Or
great.
gymnastics.
Or
Everyone
both,
always
actually,
says,
probably, yeah.
or both. That's what I had. Martial arts, then gymnastics. Gymnastics first, then martial arts. Sorry, I lied there. But yeah, it teaches you discipline, strength, flexibility, speed, respect, everything. If you're a douchebag and you're in martial arts, that kid is getting kicked out of that gym immediately, you know, so you don't want to be that parent. So anyways, you were talking about MMA for a bit. Oh yeah, you were talking about UFC, and you spoke about the entertainment aspect of MMA. What's different between the Irish market and the US market in terms of entertainment and creativity?
Yeah, I just think in general people are like way up for, they probably have bigger aspirations over in America than here, you know. But I think what I like a lot about Irish people is that we're rich in storytelling, we're rich in culture. That's something I just love about Europe in general, is I feel like there's a lot more depth to it, whereas some parts of America are very like surface level, and people, I don't think people are as funny as Irish people. Maybe that's because I'm biased because like I grow up here, so
There's more
I wouldn't say
banter in
I wouldn't
Europe.
say Irish people. I mean people who live in Ireland. Do you know what I mean?
Okay.
Whereas Americans, if they've always lived there, they see Europe as like this weird alien entity across the Atlantic Ocean, and
They see it as one.
yeah,
They
yeah,
literally see it as one. It's like, oh, I'm going over to Europe. I'm like, cool.
yeah.
Which one? Like, landed in Europe. No, you didn't. Like,
They love going to Ireland and the UK,
they love it.
or a bit of Paris. They love Paris as well.
A little bit of Paris, Italy. Come on.
Oh yes,
Oh,
yeah. They
come
love
on.
that as well.
They
yeah.
love Italy. I think they skip
Malta.
Germany. Yeah, they skip Malta, but like that's fair enough. It doesn't even show on the globe. Like that's fine. They skip Germany usually as well. They skip lots of places. Portugal is trending.
You
It
think?
is. Yeah. it
For
is.
Americans?
Yeah.
Interesting. Oh, what do you mean?
A little bit cheaper and
Oh.
also drugs.
Oh, really? All right.
Yeah, drugs are legalized in Portugal. TJ, please fact check me on that.
I didn't
I'm
know that.
pretty sure I am. Yeah, so you can get
Whatever you want.
basically whatever you want. Yeah.
Wow.
So if they're used to the American markets where cannabis is legal and there's dispensaries everywhere, Portugal.
Nice. That's interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Look, Europe is. I think we've got a chip on our shoulder, being such a small continent and being so disconnected with one another. I've had this conversation before on the podcast, but like I do think we function at different paces and speeds, and that, as beautiful as it is, and of course you can't let go of culture whatsoever. I think it would be such pity, but I think we function as individual countries. You know, like you're Irish, you're
Yeah.
European, but like you're Irish at the end of the day, right? I don't
Yeah.
know. What do you think about that?
Yeah. As in, like, is Europe more like individualistic than America, or?
No, I think Europe can never succeed as much as America does,
Okay.
because America functions as one at a national, like
National level.
at a
Yeah,
national
yeah.
level. These states are basically countries,
Yes,
you know?
that's so true, actually. Yeah.
And Europe, there's the Irish budget, of course, there's the European budget, there's the EU, but like we're never going to be like super connected because everyone is just like, no, home is Ireland to me, home is Spain, Italy.
Yeah.
And I think businesses, like if I'm not mistaken, Spotify was originally Swedish or something.
Mm-hmm.
And it was when they moved over to the US market that then it skyrocketed.
Yeah. I think they're on the US stock exchange now.
Yeah.
Is
And there's I think there's a reason for that. I think America understands entertainment and business a lot better,
Yeah.
which is interesting because then arts and culture is usually a European stereotype. But Look at Netflix.
Yeah, I think like America as a market is, Americans are fantastic consumers, and one of the reasons why everybody always says like go to the US is because they want to go to a big market, but they're used to consuming everything from food to entertainments, etc. If you go into a US supermarket, there's just so many more SKUs of products because not only is there way more people, but there's a lot more appetite for different kinds of things, and I think that's just because America is like commercial consumption. They're also the entertainment capital of the world in a way, So,
Yeah.
whereas Europe, it's just not exactly the same thing. Even when you look at the consumption of food, like Europeans, particularly, I would say, like places like Italy, where they have more balanced diets, the culture is maintained because it's not so commercialized and
I see.
doesn't have to be as like scalable to everybody. It retains its sense of like Italy is essentially sort of like a small business, it retains its sort of culture and individualism, but there's no way it could scale the same way that America can scale,
Because we're not extreme consumers.
because a lot of the time we're not built for scale,
Okay.
not in some places we are, but like some areas we're just not, whereas America is so full of chains. When people start like a new restaurant and it's headed up by a big multinational, they always think, well, how can I get this into every state in America, and everybody can have the same level of like experience. But that's sort of, I think that's more to do with like economies and populations, and the bigger a society is, it has different requirements from commerce to serve that society well. Like if everybody obviously says that like the quality of American food isn't as good, yada yada, but the reality is at the moment, we can afford to have organic foods here and stuff like that, but organic foods currently don't have the scale that they could feed 300 million people that are in North America. So you're going to have to cut corners to a degree, otherwise people are going to starve. So these are all they're like complicated societal issues that I'm way outside my pay grade, but yeah, they're definitely very different, but every country has its place,
Mm-hmm.
and I think like from living over there for a bit, obviously living here for quite a while, and I've gone to a few European cities just on a small scale, I think I'd definitely like to do a bit more traveling to figure out where are places that I really click with. I really like here. I would potentially contemplate living here like long term, because I love being near my parents and I don't see them as being very adventurous and wanting to go elsewhere. But at the same time, I'm curious to try out different countries to see, would I want to live there? Like I'd like to be open-minded enough to at least try it.
Are you eyeing a specific country right now?
No, not really. I definitely want to, like, I'm going to Portugal in 2 weeks for 3 days.
Visit the dispensaries.
Yes, to visit dispensaries, yeah. I've never been before, so like I'd love to just try out a few different countries. Like,
Yeah.
Is there any places you really want to go to?
Mm.
I want to go to Fibs, bro. Haven't been there before.
I would love to visit America just to see. I haven't been there before.
Mm-hmm.
Just to see the grandness of everything.
Of everyone.
Of everyone, really. Is it that bad?
Nah, not everywhere. No, I'm only
Okay.
joking. Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
it's extremes again. There's just so many more people. You're gonna have
but
like
you're gonna
bigger
see it
extremes.
more.
Yeah.
Like when I moved over to Dublin, I'm still fascinated. Sometimes I'm taken aback whenever I see a Spotify billboard. And that's because that wouldn't have, it's not a thing back home. So for me, just being in Dublin, I'm just like, holy shit. So, like I see Facebook offices and Google offices. I'm like, all right. Like I'm in the European hub, if that makes sense. So I feel like I'm in Europe's New York. I said that to Shane Fleming and he said, hell no.
You called here Europe's New York?
Yeah.
What did he say?
Hell no. You're so wrong.
What did he think?
He said that Dublin is nowhere near New York's pace. He said, first of all, the amount of people that there are over here versus there, that like he gets stopped non-stop whenever he's over here in town. Obviously, we kind of spoke about this before we started recording. Everything is like quite like limited to 6 stories, I think, or something like that. So there's the grandness of it that's missing. And yeah, Like it is very true. He is right.
Yeah.
So I'd like to visit New York just to see the speed of everything. Where else would I like to go? A lot of Irish people are moving over to the Netherlands. A lot of nomads are moving over to Portugal. It's between Portugal and Barcelona.
Mm.
So if you try one, usually they go Barcelona, then they try Lisbon, then they go back to Barcelona. Don't know why. I like Ireland. I like Ireland. I think
Why do you like Ireland?
I like Ireland because I can communicate easily. I think the fact that we are English speaking is a massive advantage to so many other like countries, unfortunately. So I think my choices are limited where it's like communication is so important to me that I'd like to go to an English speaking country, which unfortunately means more expensive. I think there's a lot of potential here. And it's about figuring out when I feel like we're at like a certain point where things are just going to fall into place, and the creator space and the creator market could become massive if people's intentions are right, and if people really push themselves and put themselves out there and are willing to connect. I don't know, like with you and like your experience and stuff, but the one thing that probably Europeans slack on is collaborating and connecting, because we want to keep everything to ourselves just in case it goes wrong and just in case it goes right. So it's like trying to figure out like like if we collaborate, we'll do so much better. I have a friend, she's from Dublin, lived in New York for 4 years, came down, and the moment that we started chatting, it's like we know that we can go further together. So like why not share content opportunities? What do you think about that?
Have you ever heard that phrase? It's go fast, go alone, go far, go together.
Yeah. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, well, I love collaboration. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love like
Do you think it's slacking in Ireland?
I-
Like if you were to compare it to like the LA YouTuber scene.
yeah, but I think it's slightly different though, because over there people meet up all the time. Like there's house parties all the time and people physically mingle, but that doesn't mean that they connect. Whereas in Ireland, I feel like we're more reserved, but when we're in a setting, either through, by nature or nurture, by like artificially deciding to go to like an event, or if there's just some scenario where you can, be open with someone and chat to them, we connect very well as Irish people, I think. Whereas in America, there's probably a lot more activity going on, but that doesn't mean it's the same level of depth,
Okay, so would you say it's kind of like a popularity contest of get me into this house party?
Yeah, well, in Los Angeles, yes.
Yeah. How did you feel like being in that atmosphere?
It was really interesting. Like, I remember one night, this group of people just rocked up to the house, and they were like, "Can we come in?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" And they were like, "Oh, like, can we come into your house?" And I was like, "I'm sorry, but in Ireland, this is extremely strange experience, And I think I asked them to leave or something in the end, but it's just a very different like atmosphere over there, when it comes to that kind of stuff. And yeah, there was certain aspects of it like I didn't like, and certain aspects of it I was like, oh, if I did want to live here, I would have to accept that this is part of like their cultural norms, And I think as well, when you're over there, if you're an Irish person, or even if you're from Europe, but particularly if you're Irish, you're always going to have to play that like Paddy Irish guy a bit,
Yeah.
as like, you're just a token Irish guy. It's good in many ways because it gets you in the door to like speak to people, or it gives you common ground for them to relate to someone. But it does become a bit annoying when it's like, I just
drink, you're Irish for it.
Yeah, or just like you have to be the funny guy,
Yeah.
So that obviously can be a bit of a drain, but like the pros outweigh the cons, I wouldn't call those bad cons by any means.
Okay. So what's the moment that you left, what did you take away from that? What were your takeaways? And what are you introducing to Ireland again?
There was a lot of skills I felt like I needed to develop, and that's what I tried to take back home. I think as well, coming back to Fearless, which I was doing before the Go House, was trying to build more of a team rather than me just be a freelancer. Now, to be very transparent, I still do a lot of editing myself. Like essentially sometimes I play the role of being the freelancer. So I haven't got to a point in the business where I completely manage stuff, which is an area that I want to get to in the future. But I was definitely able to bring some of those skills back to a thing that I had parked at the side and had, eventually come back to. And I think a part of me definitely wants to go back to America in the future.
And what is your next? Of course, you were talking about like your business model and all this kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But what is the next hurdle that you are facing right now?
The current hurdle is, we've had our best 3 months, the past 3 months from a top line revenue perspective. But as I was saying to you before the podcast, part of it is like bloated revenue. So part of it is like we're taking on work from certain areas that it's bringing in money, but there's no like streamlined product that we're selling. And so a lot of our attention and the team is me and 3 other lads, is sort of disparate amongst quite a few projects. And what I'd like us to do over the next 12 months is to refine down what we do to be good at one particular thing in one particular industry, where we can develop the sort of economies of scale is the wrong word, but develop the knowledge base of getting one result for one particular customer avatar again and again and again. But also you can benefit of the efficiency that you're not spreading yourself into like too many different areas. And it's also easier from a word of mouth perspective for someone to say, Thomas runs a business called Fearless and Fearless do this, rather than, he's a content guy, or he's like a video guy, or like he helps people with TikTok. There's too many different things that can be associated with what we do, whereas I'd prefer to have one singular source of truth, which is Gary Vee is associated with entrepreneurship. That's like the one word that I think people would think of him, or businessman. And so that to him, there's this cool clip by Mike Winnett, who's like a UK based entrepreneur, where he met him over in New York. And he's going to meet him, and he meets these lads at reception, and he goes, "What are you doing here?" And they said, "Oh, we're here to meet Gary Vee." And he was like, "Oh, really?" And they were like, "Yeah, we paid 10 grand to see him." And all these like people were pitching their business to Gary, and he'd essentially either invest or he'd, forward it on to somebody else. So like after all of the brand awareness and the thought leadership he's built in the entrepreneurship space, the byproduct of all of that notoriety was that he attracted a certain kind of person, aka somebody with a business, to go meet Gary, ask for advice, and then he essentially would become like an angel investor to many different people. He essentially was sort of like a personal branded VC firm in a way, and it was just great lead flow for him because he could have all these very smart people coming to him. It's inbound. It's like somebody coming to you for a video project, and like they already know who you are because they've listened to the podcast. It's a lot easier to sell those people than people who don't know who you are. So, not that I want the same model from that for us, but I do want us to be known for like one thing.
And what is that one thing that you're hoping for?
That's something that we need to figure out, to be honest. Yeah, it's like a product that we need to figure out. There's things that I like doing, like I like helping grow people's TikTok accounts. We do a lot of video production, just like Peter does. But to be honest, I would like us to like pick one product, and that can get us to a certain level of scale. Alex Hormozy, who's like an internet marketer guy, he always talks about to get from 0 to 1 million is about finding one product, one customer avatar with one lead or like acquisition channel, be that like LinkedIn DMs, word of mouth, paid ads, cold calling, etc. So,
and I'm assuming that the people that are listening to this sort of know who you are and all that kind of stuff.
I'd say only my friends are going to listen to this, but anyway. Outside of your audience.
Thank you. Exactly.
That was a good save, wasn't it, TJ? Wow, that was very bad.
Did you get me looking at him, like giving him a double take?
The outrage there. The outrage.
I got so defensive so quick. I'm so sorry.
How dare you, Tom?
How dare you?
No.
Proceeds to have like 10 listens. Anyway. Guys, I love that. What was I going to say? Oh, yeah. Going into something really deep now. Along the way, obviously there were certain things that succeeded and certain things that failed. What would your greatest lesson about failure be?
It's a good question. Yeah, I think the bigger the failure, the bigger the learning curve, and a lot of the time, I've said in my life anyway that like I go along a certain path. I'm like running a certain hamster wheel, and then something comes and fucking destroys the hamster wheel, and you have to reassess and go, am I moving in the right direction? Am I on, to use more of a vehicle analogy, like if I'm on a boat, am I going the right direction? Am I even on the right fucking boat? Like, should I be on a different boat? Should I be going to a different country? And I think the biggest thing I've learned from failure is like failure happens like all the time, 24/7 in micro ways. And when I was a kid, I was so obsessed with the idea of perfection and getting things 100% correct that I would always get really frustrated when things would go wrong, even even in a small way. And that's even something I actively have to remind myself today, is that everything, like the latest thing, for example, is that there's a guy who's with me. He sort of works full time now, and I just would always get like frustrated when he'd make these like little mistakes, but not understanding that, or having empathy for the fact that sure, I made all those mistakes as well. Like, I can't expect he's going to know everything that I'd know, given that I've done this for like 5 years. And you just have to be patient and to teach them. And all these things are not failures, they're just learning points along the way, And I think as well, if you're able to be aware of what a failure is, then you can be aware of an action plan to make that better. But if you just go through life saying like, that's why I like having the mentality of, if shit goes wrong, it's all fucked. Like, we're fucked. The business will go down, yada, yada, yada. And having like a very high standard for what I feel the work that we should put out. Because then when, if we coasted, I just would feel like we'd achieve nothing. We'd be like everybody else. We just like do something normal and give ourselves a pat on the back and go for a drink and say, God, we achieved something meaningful there, when I just don't feel like we had really put the work in, because we didn't have like high enough standards for what we felt like we could achieve. So it's a pretty rambly answer, but yeah, I think all the big failures in my life have definitely helped me grow the most, and I hope that continues for the rest of my life, because you'll continuously get to higher and higher levels.
And how do you think you will serve others best, considering that that is something super important to you?
I think, self-awareness is something that you develop over time, and I have been thinking a lot about what are the skills that I can take and deploy more leverage in, so that I can help more people. I think I have good energy, generally speaking, and like when I meet people and have conversations, they're generally quite productive, and I love, meeting people and learning from them and connecting with them. And I love communicating as well, and sort of trying to articulate how I see the world, and where I feel like internally to the lads who work for me, it's about where I feel like the company can go, and externally with things like this or anything to do with social media, it's to try and communicate messages to people. And those are the two things I feel like I'd be relatively skilled at, or the things that I'd like to do moving forward in my life, and also can be deployed in such a way that it can impact lots of people. If I was a carpenter and all I ever did was make doors that took like a month to make, I could only ever make 12 doors in a year, and that can only be stuck in 12 houses. Arguably, if there's only 4 people in a house, I'm only helping 48 people in a year. But if I can make social media content and that can be reached by thousands and thousands of people, or I can have a business where there's headcount, so obviously you're helping the people who work for you by giving them like a wage, or they're contractors, and you're helping them put food on the table, but you're also enabling them to help all your customers, and all your customers in our case have marketing and content that needs to go out so that they can make money to help their business. So I think of impact as a numbers game, and I'm constantly trying to think of what is the best way to deploy my energy so that we can make the most amount of impact in a meaningful way. And ultimately, meaning is something that is made up. They're just stories that you tell yourself and things that you say. You could say that you could be a drug dealer and say that you help people have great nights out, and that's like your way of creating impact, you know? So I'm not saying that how I view it or how the team views it is like correct by any means, but you know, the intention with all the work we do is to ultimately deploy it into higher and higher leverage activities to the point where we can have a business that can really, really help lots of people, even in a small way. I think that to me would ultimately be a meaningful life, but I think it's going to take us a long time to get there, you know? I'd say it's probably a few decades before I can really feel like we can hit the level of impact that I feel like I would be semi-satisfied with, you know?
And at what point, so right now on your social media, it's usually through Fearless that you are talking or presenting yourself online.
Mm-hmm.
When do you think you're going to start like creating content as Thomas?
I don't know the answer to that question yet. I'm really, you know, trying to figure that out. I think the past year anyway, I've been very focused on developing the business, developing my own skills as like an entrepreneur, if you want to call it that, and trying to become a better person and to try and live more of life. Because, you know, part of the reason why I haven't done podcasts in like a year and a half, and reason why I haven't made so much content, is I felt like I just had a lot of growing up to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd felt like prior to that, I'd sort of like burned the candle at both ends in terms of what the insights I could deliver to people. And arguably you could run that gambit for the rest of your life. Like you could just say, I need to spend time learning before I can speak about things.
Yeah, paralysis by analysis nearly.
Yes, that to a degree, but also like, sure, you can always say that you could learn more. Yeah, like at what point do you say, I'm just gonna
I know everything.
deliver the no, as like at what point am I just gonna deliver this and say, look, I'm happy that I'm trying my best to help somebody else, and that's enough for me. Because like I didn't start making my college vlogs with knowing everything. Like I just made them because I was in college and I wanted to do them. I didn't have a grand plan.
Yeah.
Looking back, it looks like I had a grand plan in a way, but I really didn't. I was just doing something over and over and over again.
I think it's that willingness to learn. It's like, if we were to use the same example as you said, it's literally just, okay, I don't know everything. I'm okay and I'm happy with this, with presenting this video to you, this book to you, whatever it may be. I am willing to learn, aka critique, if this were like a literature review or something. Same with videos and learning. I am willing to learn, taking this on board, and that. TikTok, I have so much to learn. One thing that I really have to learn, which I find really, it is actually something that I wanted to talk to you about. I struggled a lot with expectation management, and that is what has let me down mentally a lot of the time, where if people aren't getting short form content is so hit or miss, and it's so tough, and getting such a nuanced topic or concept, shortening it down to 30 seconds, trying to have it like you need to manipulate a conversation one way or another in order for it to do its job and go viral. And expectation management where people are not getting it because they don't want to sometimes was very tough on me. Like I couldn't handle the concept that people were not getting it. And
why did they not get it? Was it? Are you thinking of the comment section?
The comment section. The comment section was the bit where they wouldn't be getting it. Sometimes they would, and it was for the more. It's weird. It was for the more like vulnerable, mental health, depressing topics that people got it, and the more opinionated ones or motivational ones. That is where people's like views were a little bit more strong, let's put it that way. And that was very tough for me, where I used to go like it used to consume my mind non-stop. I'd be so baffled by what they were saying and why they were saying that, and why they wouldn't, like, if the path is leading them to the episode, why won't they just listen to the episode first? I can give them timestamps. I was giving timestamps. That was the difficult bit for me, where it kind of like ruined my relationship with short form content for a bit, where I felt like I had to take a step back and re-strategize on how I'm going to market it. And I feel like I've seen that on your TikTok sometimes, especially when you popped up on our feed. On people's feed again, it's like people were either in support of you or like the general concept of Ireland and notions.
Yeah,
It's just like he's at it again, but like you're at it again. You know?
Yeah. Like, and do you feel like did that affect you in terms of posting? Did you not want to post?
I think what it affected was my general excitement on editing TikToks and clipping the good bits out of fear of what they will say. And my issue as well is, considering that this is a podcast and I have a guest on, it's general protectiveness towards the guest too.
But I think that the guest choosing to do the podcast consents to...
That's what I've gotten from a lot of people, actually. Whenever I do discuss this topic, I think a lot of them say it's probably just the best way is to maybe do like a guidelines TikTok. So you might see that actually pop up, where I'm going to be like, listen, I'm going to pin this video. This is the expectations that you have. A lot of mental health pages are doing that right now, where if they go, listen, if you're struggling with your mental health, go and exercise because that helps you. A lot of the comment section sometimes is like very weird. So there's that expectation management of like, listen, this is why I'm saying this. If you get offended, it's on you.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a good idea. I'm still sitting on it, but I feel like that's probably the best way on setting an actual boundary with so many anonymous accounts.
Yeah. Like, I remember, like, this question has always come up, even when I was doing vlogs and stuff. People would say, do you think about the haters? And I remember I used to think like, no, I don't think about them, but like I do. Like I'm a very sensitive guy. Like I'm a creative, so everything affects me, you know.
Yes.
And I don't like negative comments as much as the next person. I guess now, like, I haven't posted on the Fearless TikTok in ages, but if people commented stuff on my TikTok, I normally just tell them to fuck off, because like now if you snipped that particular piece, that would definitely get hate on TikTok. But like, I won't stand for being bullied. I don't mind constructive criticism, but if anybody has a go at me or anybody else, I'm gonna go back at you on that comment section. And if you have a problem, like, you can come meet me and we can have a conversation.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a lot more combative now on TikTok than I used to be. I think it's because I'm sick of people bullying people. And
I think it's the anonymity.
Yeah, because like I found a lot of the time when you respond to people, some people go, "Oh, thanks for replying." Like, I feel like sometimes you're not even, people don't really care about you. You're just like this entity that comes up on their feed, and if they don't like it, they comment, and then they just like go away with the rest of their life. Like, they don't care.
They scroll away.
They're not going to look at the rest of the thing. You know, it's sort of. But I think for you, it is the flip side of the medium. The medium requires you to compress things and sensationalize it into short form bits of footage. And that's obviously going to have very polarizing opinions. People will like it or hate it. But like, the true fans will listen to the full thing to get the full context, you know? And not everybody cares enough to actually see the full thing, you know?
Yes. I completely agree with you on that. And I think it literally goes back to the concept of short form content and how people are not going to commit to it. But I think the issue with Tate is probably the purest example, where the clips of him going viral were not good.
Not at all, no.
Not at all. But then there were like young boys literally taking that as their motivational advice and applying that to their life. So I think there was damage being done with the short form, stuff and the clips going viral, and the fact that polarizing content is what works. So it was the clips of him talking like,
I agree. Yeah, yeah.
you know, like
Yeah.
he was being very rude towards like women. I think what um touched me, or like probably, I hate to say the word triggered because I didn't act on anything, but it was kind of like, oh, it's hard for me to watch this, but I actually made myself watch it, was when he was talking about his sister. And that's because I have a brother, and I just have a brother. So that was tough for me to listen to, because I was like, if my brother watched that when we were 13 and 15, and he said that stuff about me, I don't think I would have handled that correctly.
Mm.
And I don't think he should have gotten banned. I think that a lot of responsibility should have gone towards the way the clips are and how they were edited. What worked was that those clips were going viral because of those accounts. He didn't have a TikTok. He was just going on podcasts. But his students were clipping it. They had an affiliate link. If people signed up to Hustlers University, they would get a commission, money.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's that model that kind of broke him. It was his product
That ate him up in the
he
end.
shot himself in the foot with that.
Yeah. The broader point is, I don't see how it solves any problems by people not being able to have discourse anymore. Like, say
Yeah.
you like someone and I'm like, oh,
Mhm.
I don't like them. I
No.
don't know who that do that. Does that mean then that I should have the say to go, they should be off the internet?
Yes, and I agree
It's
with
my
that.
choice not to look at the
Sure.
stuff.
For sure. And it's also
Also, by the way, kids can go watch porn online.
yeah, it's on Twitter nonstop, and I think that's it. It's like a lot of people are now going, well, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook are a private business, so therefore you should abide by their rules. Cool, but you should also look at it when, what if, I don't want to say like the far left because I don't want to get political, but if I were to say something and I get banned or whatever, I have no ground. Like, there can't be any fucking GoFundMe page or petition page on change.org going, re-platform Debbie.
I
Because
think that has a good name. Clip that, TJ. Yeah.
there you go. Re-platform Debbie, please. No, but it is true. It's like a lot of people are just like, whenever it comes to either a very strong opinion, political, it usually falls under the more right and conservative group or umbrella of people. Those are constantly getting deplatformed, but you don't see it on the other end of the spectrum. And yeah, it's like, okay, now they are Instagram are also and all these social media companies are shooting themselves in the foot for something like this, for sure. I think there had to be, I do think something had to be done in terms of the regulations behind short form clips.
I agree as well, yeah.
And that is where, like, you do not deplatform a person, but kind of like YouTube and their guidelines, they have very strict guidelines, although a lot of things do kind of like seep through the cracks. But it's, no, create rules. If you're swearing, I would have to censor myself, I would have to bleep it, you know, but I would have to abide by these rules, rather than deplatforming a person. He's going to keep showing up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just,
he already is showing up on
He
other people's
is.
podcasts.
yeah, like it's just it's silly. And that's where the responsibility for short clips comes in, and that is the relationship that I was struggling with, because I was like, if I manipulate a conversation in such a way to trigger people into commenting and liking the video and all that kind of stuff, that means more growth for me. Win. But then, am I happy with that? I don't think so. I had one clip go insane because we were talking about how leaving certs are horrible.
Like leaving cert students?
No, leaving certs like the exams.
Oh,
Like,
right.
they're very
okay.
tough on the students, and we basically were like, listen guys, you know, like, our hearts are kind of with you, you know, sometimes it's tough, sometimes it's easy. And it was a complete debate in the comment section. Cool, you know, like, it was grand. But if I kept doing that, then I just had a bunch of like angry people nonstop in my comment section, and I don't want that. I feel like it follows you. I don't know why. I don't know how people do it.
It sits on your back, sort of.
It sits on your back.
Baggage,
It's like what happened with TikTok was I would post a clip, and whenever I'd see 99 plus, my heart would sink a little bit because I'd be scared to see which side of the platform it ended up on. Does that make sense?
Yes, yeah. Was it good or a bad reason?
I had good and bad ones. I had the housing crisis one. That was not a good one. It was not fun to listen to or watch, actually. Like the comment section. I had Connor O'Keefe on where he was
I really want to meet him in
He
long form. He is amazing.
He's so good.
He's good friends with a friend of mine. I'd love to talk to him long form. Anyway, sorry.
No. He was so motivating. Like he was probably the first guest that I sat down with, and
You were like energized by?
not just energized by, but I also just took a seat and watched him do his thing.
Interesting.
He did not stutter. You can tell that this man is not bullshitting either and believes in himself. We were basically talking about how to become your own best friend. And I feel like I've taken that analogy like with me since having that conversation with him on what can I do, or what matters to me the most that will make me become my own best friend. And it's a process, obviously, like he is going through it as well. He's also a fucking badass as well, like
He's a
running
complete badass.
ultra marathons with 32 pounds on his chest in 32 days in a row. That's crazy.
Crazy, yeah.
I cannot wait to watch that documentary.
Same.
That's gonna be so
I can't
good.
wait.
And he's also writing a book.
Brilliant.
I again can't wait.
Exciting.
He's so good.
He's so good.
So yeah, like I've had quite a few people on that really just inspire you to like do better and be better and just learn things as well. Where the fuck were we going with this? Yeah, so people were like shitting on Connor. And
for what?
The clip was, nothing's going to fix you. You're going to fix you. That was basically it. And the comment section was like, it goes deeper. I don't know if you can pull it up on TikTok.com. Just go Debbie Shaw and you'll find, or I can airdrop it to you. We'll figure it out. So he was going, nothing's going to fix you. You're going to fix you. No couch to 5K, no ultra marathon, no this, no that. You're going to fix you. And the comment section had really like disappointed me because there were people standing up for what he was saying. And then there were others just being like, you don't know what you're talking about. Bullshit.
Yeah.
Bullshit.
People are always going to do that though.
Always.
On TikTok.
It is the anonymity.
Yes.
I think that's what
it's also the ease of comments, you know. Peter Thiel has this good quote and it's he's like, if you have a 10-person company, you'll be able to see everything that happens in the company. You have a 100-person company and something really fucked up will happen and you'll go, Jesus, I never thought that would happen in my business. And a 1,000-person company, something potentially existential to the business will happen and you will think, why did I even start this business? And when you look at the world as a whole, it's remarkable that we haven't all like destroyed each other yet, because there are so many, between the interactions between all human beings, there's so many things that can go wrong. That's part of the issue with social media companies in terms of, from a structural point of view, is there's never been a scenario in the human race where we've had interconnected networks that billions of people are all part of. And when issues occur, they can occur like to a infinitesimal part of that user base could be 10 million people.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas like if we have an issue in Ireland, it might, you know, for example, if an advertisement gets banned, that can be because 12 people complained to the commission.
Oh my God, yes. What was that about? Yeah.
Versus like social media, the issues are at such large scale. So
yeah. Whoop, we found it nearly.
oh, some of these have hella views.
Yeah, it trigger people. That one.
I love O'Keefe.
He's great. No, not me. There you go. Is there sound on this? There should be.
If you scroll down to the bottom of it, you can turn it off.
Start it from the beginning, please, TJ.
No, nothing. Nothing is going. nothing on the outside is going to fucking fix you. No race, no gym class, no coach to 5k, no losing 20 pounds, no holiday, no course, no book, no podcast, no nothing. Nothing is going to save you. You're going to save you.
That's
nothing
it.
on the outside.
But the reason why, like one of the reasons why I feel like that clip is so impactful is because he went all in on that opinion. He didn't sugarcoat it, which is what I do sometimes, is where you give an opinion and then you half-arse out of it, because he gave it his all.
Yeah,
That's why it's going to naturally create
that
a
division.
separation, a parting of the Dead Sea. There's going to be people who hate it and people who love it, and that is ultimately you have to be like O'Keefe. Like, you have to stand for something, otherwise you stand for nothing. You have to have an opinion that some people are going to absolutely love the shit out of and people who are going to hate. Because if you stick in this weird middle gray zone, you're not going to connect with people, because there's, again, it comes back to supply and demand. There's too much supply of content for you to give a shit about the stuff that's like in the middle. Nobody gives a fuck about the guy who lost £1 a week, because it's not an interesting story. You want to hear about the guy who lost £50 in a week. Yeah. And, he went from zero to hero. So I think that's more systemic of just the boredom that we have with our phones, and there's so much content that, like, I love shit like that, So you made a great clip there, because you do the thing that everybody does now, where we're bored of single clips on TikTok. So we need two things in the same screen. We need a person on top, and we need a video game playing at the bottom, or some stock footage with captions, because we're bored now of single videos.
Oh, competing with the thumb. That's how I treat TikTok, as in it is a numbers game, and I am competing with your thumb and what is going to like have your thumbs like hover. It's the shock factor.
Yes.
And so like I understood it. I was just scared when this kept happening over and over again, where I was like, I don't want to fuck up my relationship with the guest. Does that make sense? And I also was like, I know the formula, like it's in front of me, and I'm like, it unfortunately means manipulation.
Yeah.
So I had a very tough time going, am I okay with clipping the shit out of this? And as long as it keeps growing and I attract people accordingly. After you said that, yeah, you're right. I agree with you. I have, I can't, I agree with you.
But it's not like you want a TikTok page that gets no views.
No.
If you didn't want views, you wouldn't have made a TikTok page. So I think you just have to lean into the idea that, like, that's the game that you're playing,
You're right.
There's downsides to every game.
Literally.
There's always going to be. Number one, like, just my opinion, like, it's not your fault to protect the guests. You're not responsible for that comment section. You're responsible for making a piece of content that people are going to watch. That's the whole point of the podcast, of TikTok, etc. If they don't want to be in it, then they don't need to be in your podcast,
Okay.
So
yeah, there you go.
you don't need to feel guilt,
I know. I think it's just like a natural.
Yeah, it's a human response.
It's a human response, and obviously, like I went through the flows,
Yes, of course.
Ebbs and flows and stuff. Thomas, it has actually been a pleasure.
No problem. Thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you so much. Are you all good? Do we need to plug anything?
No. You don't need to plug anything. No. I'm not posting that much at the moment, but I'm on Instagram at Thomas Arnold, and Fearless Media is my business. So hopefully we'll be back posting relatively soon. And thanks for having me on, Debbie. It was a pleasure.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much. And thank you everyone for listening.